Anyone here who finds writing a blurb harder than writing a book?
Yes, I do. Definitely do.
Yeah, we got a few hands. Yeah. So I feel the same way, and I don't know why. It is so scary, but that's why Sofia is here today. Sofia is a bit of a blurb whisperer. So let's welcome Sofia. Thank you so much. We really need you right now. How many blurbs have you written, Sofia? Give or take.
That should have been a great question. I've got no idea. I don't know, maybe 40 or 50. Oh no, it'd be more than that. I don't know. There's a few. There's a few out there.
40 or 50.
I don't know.
I can't imagine what that would be like. I hope that one day that is me. But you're also a USA Today bestselling author. So I imagine you've written some good blurbs, some pretty good blurbs. So yeah, hopefully they're working. So we met a few weeks ago and we talked about what you could contribute to Self Pub Hub, this community. And you were super flexible. There seemed to be a million different things that you could have offered, skills that you could have helped us build. I'm happy we went with blurbs because they are terrifying. And a bad blurb is a very expensive problem to have because we can have a great story. And if you're like me or James or whoever else raise their hands, it's much easier to write the big story than the blurb, like the blurb, which is the most artistic piece of sales copy really that you can create. So thank you, Sofia. Sofia, everyone, Sofia is going to share some tools with us by the end of this workshop, assuming that there's no more internet outages. We're hopefully all going to feel a lot more comfortable approaching blurbs. And I cannot imagine. So I challenge you, Sofia, to make me feel more comfortable with my blurb. But I will give you the floor. And if there's anything else you'd like to say to introduce yourself that I missed, then now is your chance.
Okay, sure.
Sorry. Before we go on, can everybody mute their mics so that we don't have any background noise? Sorry, Sofia, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I feel really weird. I'm looking at myself in this tiny, tiny little thumbnail, so I feel like a little cover of my own up the top. So I'm used to the whole screen. Nice. Okay, so I do book fast. Please do tell me to slow down if I need to, or if my accent is too thick or whatever. I know I use a few different words to you guys. So yes, I'm USA Today bestseller. I'm also marketing manager for Romance Writers Australia and Romance Cafe Publishing, which is a small indie publishing house. And I generally write suspense and romance. So I cover all the alpha male tropes and use boring just sticking to one. I know that's probably not how you're supposed to do it, but it's a lot of fun for me. I'm a military wife. My husband was in Afghanistan in 2008. So at the moment we're watching what's going on around the world very cautiously. And of course we're flooded locally, so we can't go anywhere. So we're sort of stuck as it is. I've got 3 young kids. Packer Park, which was meant to be finished this weekend, but now that we've got a river instead of a dam flowing down the bottom of the property, we'll be doing some fencing. So that's us for the meantime. I do a lot of cowboy romances as well. So my blurbs usually flow towards those. I've got a small obsession with Montana. So when you think about what a blurb needs, it's just like any other part of your marketing kit for your novel. So like when you design a cover or you go to a designer to get a cover designed, you think genre, you think what that person is going to see, what's going to be most attractive, the font, all those aspects, and the blurb is exactly the same. So you still need to have all the things that a reader needs to know in tiny, tiny little snapshot. So you've got a few moments to grab their attention and hold it. Usually there's a little tagline at the top, and I swear those 7 or 10 words can be the hardest words you have ever written in your life because you've got to compact a high concept into this big. So that's a nice little toughie to start off with. But it doesn't have to be a pretty little package. ready so that they can buy it, or as Amazon has started doing, package your series and press one click, and $17 later they've bought the whole lot, which is just fantastic. So where do you use a blurb? So from reader's perspective, you might think back to 20 years ago or so, where we always were in a bookshop reading books in a bookshop. So you pick up the book, blurb is on the back, but it's a lot more than that now. So the majority of books are ebooks now that we sell, and that are bought around the world, especially with Amazon, with 80% of the market. And you're usually going to be presenting that blurb on the Amazon storefront. But it can also be your reader magnet on BookFunnel or Story Origin or on your website. It is a blurb that is on your social medias, on Instagram or on Facebook. And you might want to tweak these and have short and long blurbs and work out who your audience is in that marketplace as well. So you need to really think about who is going to be seeing your blurb and where, and tailoring it as close as you can to that. Sorry, my screen's going dark here. So you also need a series blurb. So if you're writing a book series or you have complete series out, if you don't put up a series blurb for your books on Amazon, Amazon will take the first blurb for your first book and use that instead. So it might be worthwhile just going back and checking and seeing what they look like. So you like a cover, a blurb still needs to show you your genre. Is it kids' books? Is it a romance? Is it a mystery? Is it thriller or something darker? And you can do that with language and how you lay out the blurb. Is it steam level? Is there sex in it? Is there swearing? Because you don't want a sweet reader to pick up a steamy book, and we all know how that one ends, which is a lot of fun. Tropes, if you've got, especially if you're writing romance or sci-fi, there's a lot of tropes that you can put in there. And it's all about wording and keywords, because this is something that helps make your book visible as well. So there is all these little parts to consider. If you're writing friends to lovers or enemies to lovers, is very different from a dark or a bully romance, although you can incorporate that too. If you're turning it on your head, you're doing a Beauty and the Beast retell, but it's the opposite way around, then you need to show that in the blurb as well. So your tagline is where you start. It's probably the last thing you write. So it's short, 7 or 14 word line that will draw the reader through the rest of the blurb. So you've got to catch their attention, and you've got a few seconds of them scrolling through things before they click back or forward or scroll on to the next book. It can be the same line if it's short enough that's on the front cover of your book, so where you draw your line from your image to your little tagline back to your cover and keep going around in your triangle if you use that sort of style. It can be the line that's on the back of the book, the highlight at the back of the book as well. Tell me if I'm going too fast. Hooks. Okay, so if we're writing, we know what a hook is, because you start a book with a book hook. You start a blurb the same way. It's still got to be something that is going to draw the reader through. The difference is with the blurb, and just like if you're traditionally querying in your query letter or a synopsis, every single paragraph starts and ends with a book hook or a paragraph hook or a story hook or a character hook. And you have to work out which one you're interweaving so that it all flows well together. If you start with something strong and end with something strong, that's fantastic. And you definitely need to have a strong ending, because the ending is where the reader is going to transfer from reading to buying, and we want them to click the buy, right? The problem is if you don't keep them hooked throughout the blurb, they won't get to that buy point. They won't get the call to action. They won't have the urgency and relate to that character so tightly that they absolutely have to have that book right now. And that's really the critical part, is keeping them hooked the entire way through. So it's important to set the scene. It's important to look at characters and conflict. You've either already written the book, and all that information should be in your series Bible or your book Bible. That's excellent. If, like some of us, you produce more books per year and you put out blurbs before the book is written, you need to have that information on hand. Now, that's great because it should help with your writing, but if you're a pantser or a plantser, that can be a bit of a challenge, because pantsers don't plot, right? Or outline quite the same as everybody else. And that's fine too. But you still need to have a sense of where the book is set. You still need to have a sense of your characters. And if you don't have your conflict and stakes lined up, that blurb won't sell. Now, I'm not a pantser or a plantser, so I can't talk to that. And if anybody does actually have feedback on that, I would love to hear it, because how do you plot out if you're not a plotter? I would love to. I would absolutely love to get inside someone's head. Okay, so keep that one for later. Setting the scene. So where is it set? Is it contemporary? Is it historical? Is it otherworldly? I've read blurbs that are written like they are a dry academic book, but it's a paranormal romance. And it's really hard because you're trying your hardest to get into the book and you want the demons and you want the angels, but they're just not coming out to play because it's described so dryly. And just like in your book, you need to have that real sense, but you've got a much shorter frame of words to do that. So show us where and when it is. So contemporary historical, but are we on a cruise ship? Are we in a jungle? Are we in a city? Has the city been destroyed? Was it a city that was a city years and years ago if you're doing post-apocalyptic or, however you set your book? I think the most important part is to bond us to your characters. So I've got this in the middle here. If we don't have a sense of who your characters are, we're not going to buy the book. As a reader, we need to bond to a character. Yes, we'll buy tropes, and that's fun too, but your cover should state your tropes on the front of it. You should look at that and go, yes, that's dark mafia, and your blurb is a supplement to the side of it. So you are looking at something that doesn't have the same information on the cover. You're looking at something that will absolutely help you out. So we get to go deeper with the characters. Who are your characters? What do they do? What are their professions? What are their secrets, innermost desires? And again, if you've written the book and you've done all your character cards, you probably know all this. If you haven't written the book, now is a really, really good time to start writing down at least just a couple of little dot points and filing it away. My character Bibles are not huge. My character Bibles for a whole series is about 5 pages. I have little tiny dot points because the rest of it's in my head, and that's okay. And I go between series. But you still need to have enough information in the blurb that you're going to capture the heart of the reader and draw them right into the book. So if we've got their innermost desires and secrets on the page, then we can start working on conflict. So if your conflict is written out, fantastic. It's just workshopping it until it looks really, really pretty and it's packaged. If you don't have that yet, it's simply what's stopping your characters from achieving what they want to get. Where in a romance, it's their happily ever after or happy for now. You need to set up your conflict. The conflict is absolutely central. So we've got our setting, we know where we are, when we are, we have our characters. We need to know what's preventing them from getting whatever they want, because that combined with the stakes is your urgency. This is why we have to have the book right now and read it right now. If it's a pre-order, fantastic. I know that I'm going to get this book and my happily ever after or whatever, but I need to still have the sense of urgency to go, yes, I have to get that right now. Stakes, what is it your characters risk if they can't resolve their conflict? So if your characters, say Bob and Jane are best friends, and I'm actually going to do a story that I haven't written that I wrote a blurb for this morning, but they're not Bob and Jane, but we'll pretend. Bob and Jane are best friends, and Bob has been in the friend zone for the last 15 years and he really wants out, but he has a problem. He's a procrastinator. He is scared out of his wits and he doesn't want to actually balls up and go with what and get his girl. Sorry, my dog's licking my toes and it's quite disgusting. So what's stopping him? He's a procrastinator. But on top of that, today he just got orders and he's being deployed to a war zone. He can't tell Jane where he's going. He can't tell Jane what he's doing. But they can send each other emails and they can send each other packages. For the next 12 months, he resolves that he is going to tell... don't know what happened there. He's resolved that he's going to tell Jane that he loves her and propose when he gets home. However, in the meantime, while he's away, Bob discovers that Jane has met somebody else. And now the stakes are that if he doesn't tell her soon, he doesn't get home soon or fess up, he's going to lose her to somebody else because he's simply taken too long. So breaking that down into something really clear and punchy is a challenge, right? You need to use your author voice. If your author voice doesn't come through and you go dry and academic, or you go something that's not, you go quirky and your style isn't quirky, the reader will get to that book and the blurb don't line up. If you're using the Amazon Read Now feature and it still doesn't line up, they won't be purchasing your book. It needs to be consistent, and it's part of your author brand as well. Do you want me to pause for a second and see if there's any questions or anything?
I have a question.
Before I dive into
If anyone else has a question, feel free to interrupt me. But I was wondering, when you're talking about inner goals and stakes, are we talking about like the A story stuff where it's what they think they want, or do we want to get the theme and what they don't know they really need yet? Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
I think it depends how spoilery that aspect is to your blurb. If you're going to ruin the book by truly exposing everything, then yes, you've got to be careful. But if your blurb, if you can give us exactly what that person wants and put it out there on the page and then show us what they're risking if they don't achieve it, that's the urgency that we need. It's almost like going 75% through the book in a couple of lines, in a way. So you know that this is what you're getting. The great thing is that once the reader has read the blurb and they're into your book, they don't remember it. They will not remember that blurb. What they're remembering is what's on the page in front of them. So even if you gave a tiny little hint of something, it's okay, because they are still going to buy the book. They're still going to read the book, and it didn't ruin the story all in all. If it's a mystery, yes, don't give away who the killer is, something like that. But yeah, if you can work out your character's inner conflicts and how it correlates with the stakes, with their personal stakes, that's really critical. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that actually reminds me of how much I love movie trailers that practically give everything away, because then it's like you're watching a great movie and just the highlights. I think James has a question for you.
Well, every time the subject blurbs come up, I ask this question. I've read some places that the school of thought on your blurb is to make it just a few lines, not too much, that for your Amazon page. And, until it says, read. I think it says read more. And some people don't like to go to read more because they feel that they're going to lose people. And some people say, oh, it's okay to do, no problem. Sophia, how do you feel about that?
I think that comes down to your closing hook. What is your call to action, and how are you going to get the reader to turn into a buyer? So if I don't go with the read more here, because I feel like it's like, oh, look, steak knife, there's more. Come on. I don't want to be a cheap car salesman, because I've paid hundreds of dollars for editing and covers and spent hundreds of hours writing this book. I don't want to make it sound cheap. Even if it is 99 cents, I still don't want it to sound that way. So I would say that closing hook is critical. It's that part that they need to know more, not tell them that they want more. Does that make sense? So you're writing something that is so crucial to this reader that they have to have your book right now. It's building urgency. It's exactly, I'm ex-sales manager for 25 years. It is exactly the same. I used to sell engagement rings, and I used to do it every day. You had to build urgency because you don't want them walking away to think. You don't want your reader walking away to think there are 11 million other books on Amazon. They will buy something else. You've got them. Keep them.
One more quick one. You keep mentioning hooks. How do you feel about putting a question in your blurb, or even beginning your blurb with a question? Like
I don't do questions. Personal thing. So lots of people love rhetorical questions. I don't. I personally, that's just not my style. I actually think it's cleverer not to ask a question, because your blurb should raise enough questions throughout your hooks and your spiel, again, to draw the reader through. You're a writer. Yeah. Words are our absolute genius. Be clever. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, okay.
One more question? Or would you like to keep going?
Hey, Sophia, this is Mal. Thanks for being here.
Hi.
I think you've already hinted at this, but I just wanted to make sure I heard correctly. In terms of the style of writing the blurb, it should be consistent with the style of the book. So, for example, if you're writing a rom-com, it should be more humorous. If you're writing a steamy romance, then you should hint at the emotional connections and things of that nature. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. It's part of your branding as an author, and even if you write across genres, and most of us do, then having that consistency throughout makes sure that what the reader expects that they're getting is what they're going to get. You know, you don't want them to think this is a beautiful country, gorgeous ranch romance, but it's actually reverse harem with 3 cowboys and 1 girl. You know, they're going to get a bit of a shock, and you're probably going to get the 1-star review because it didn't work out to be what they thought. And you don't want that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick follow-up. In terms, and I've heard both ways on this, in terms of the style of the blurb, should it be in the same manner in which the book is written, meaning, you know, if it's a first person presence, tense, things of that nature, should that style be this consistent?
Okay, that is absolutely next on my screen. So that's it. That's the next thing I was going to cover.
Okay,
so
great,
if there's no one, I might jump into that one. Is that okay, Jess?
Absolutely. This is your event. Go for it.
Okay. All right. So style, should you write it in first person? Do you write it the same way that your book is written? Do you write it in third person? I think I've covered the academic point because I see it so often and I really, really struggle with it. Personal thing. Point of view, there are so many different ways that you can go with this. So yes, I would make sure that it's critical your author's voice comes through. However, I don't feel it matters if, and this is purely from my experience, and it's something that you might want to tweak from book to book and try a few different things as well. Try it with the reader magnet, try it with a little 99-cents novella, something that is less critical to your income-based daily. Try it and see if you write in first person or if you write in third person, if there is a difference. There are so many schools of thought on this, and I think it just depends on what you're most comfortable writing and how you can best market it. So I write in third person and first person, both in past. So it just depends who I'm writing for and where I'm targeting it. So for traditional publishing, I will usually write in third, limited. All my blurbs are written in third present. So even though I write everything in past, my third are in present. They're all in present. Why? Because I feel like it grabs the reader and sort of pulls them in a little bit closer in present tense. So you're writing as though it's happening to them right now. And again, it builds that sense of urgency and coils them through to that buy button. Okay, it's in a specific place because we read like this on a screen. And then we start the next part. So it's in a specific place. You drop them to the bottom of your blurb and they're going to reach up and click on buy. If you don't have that urgency and that immediacy, and I feel like present does that, it helps bring that through. That doesn't mean that you can't use your own author voice in it. It sort of puts them at street level. Again, just trial it. See what works for you. I had a lot in past tense and I found that they were too dry. I found that I couldn't get the readers to bond as closely with the character because they weren't right there with them. I did recently do 2 in first person present, my first 2 that I've ever done. Both reader magnets, both have done really very well in the last month. So they've got around 3,000 subs each from. So that's been a huge thing. Haven't been in before. So it's, again, this is the trial and error part. That one's worked for me. It's fantastic. Will I do it for all my books? No, I won't, because it doesn't suit the series. So this comes down to your layout as well. So there's, you look at a lot of contemporary romance is single lines. A lot of if you look through the top 50 in contemporary romance, you'll find that they're all single lines, one punchy line, and it's almost like a group of taglines that all relate to the next one. And it can alternate point of view, it can alternate character. Others are the traditional sort, and you've got 3 or 4 paragraphs. You don't want it to be too long. You do need it to be hooky. So either way you go, it simply needs to have a whole lot of punch in there as well. Does that answer your question about
Yes,
style and how you?
Yep,
excellent. You. Okay, that's great. I'm good. All good. So the only thing that I'd like to know is that with the contemporary first person present tense, where it's a very punchy one line. There's a whole lot of comma splices in there, which does annoy me, frankly. And I've written them and I've used them for myself, but they still annoy me because I want to hang on to my grammar rules very tightly. However, they seem to work. So if it's you need to look out what's working in your genre and what works for you and try and make some sort of meld in the middle so that your books still sell. If they're not selling, try something. Try tweaking the blurb because it's the fastest and easy one to do. Try tweaking the price. See if $1 up or $1 down or 50 cents up or down, $3.99 or $2.99 across all your platforms. There's so many things you can do to sort of tweak without having to actually attack the cover last because it's damn expensive to fix. And I've just done this. So blurb is the fastest and the cheapest way to see if you can change something up. Keywords are another one. And keywords are both in your blurb and on Amazon. You've got your list of keywords that you can add in. Keep them trope and genre specific and try not to go outside it because you are drawing to your target market. It is a very quick way to draw Amazon readers to your book and raise your visibility. Keywords in your blurb. If you've got Publisher Rocket, Kindlepreneur, there's a couple of different ones around and they work for different operating systems. I'm on a Chromebook. I can't use any of them. They will give you keywords that are the top 100 most used. So secret, Christmas, white, holiday, baby, lovers. And there's another one at the top 10 in romance. So I'm romance specific. That will give you the top 10 or the top 100 to do. If you add those words into your blurb, you raise the visibility on Amazon. I can't speak for wide. I'm only just starting with wide, but I believe they would still have the same impact, to be honest, because the search engine, especially Draft to Digital with its new platform, is very similar. Language. So like you use language to set a scene, using stronger verbs, not doubling up on too many words per paragraph. These are the things that will help keep it flowing as well on top of your hooks. So if you say that Bob loves Sue up here and you say Bob loves Sue down there, we've already said it once, we don't need to say it again. Keep the information fresh. Climax for that last sort of hook so that you, just like you do in a book, you build suspense, you build to a certain point, and that's that critical point in your story where you really grab your readers and keep it flowing. It's exactly the same with the blurb to keep it rolling through. So that's basically everything I've got. Bonus round, if you're writing blurbs for TikToks, I've been playing with these all week. You can do it in a few ways, and I've had a few furfies, but you can try a few different things. You might throw a couple of single lines together and have them pop up within a second of each other and alternate up and down. You can put a paragraph that is working well for you on a blurb in a single block and have text the colour behind it so that it comes out from your video. You might like to feature it as a point of view or script it and act it out. So there's a couple of different ways you can do TikTok. And that's pretty much everything that I've got, guys. Feel free to pick my brain.
Definitely share your TikTok channel with us. But I think Kimber has a question for you. Kimber, do you have a question? You, okay.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. You quickly glossed over the places that can give you the top used keywords. I got Kindlepreneur. What were the other ones you mentioned?
Publisher Rocket is the other one.
Thanks. Sorry.
So they're the two that I would buy. You can Google some things, but the Google searches used to work. These days, it's you'll get a whole heap of ads that will try and get you to paid services that are not particularly brilliant. I would stick with those two. They've got more information, they're the ones that I would be buying, and I will be buying when I upgrade my laptop.
I didn't know that Chromecast doesn't allow you to have KDP Rocket. It's a strange thing.
Can I add
painful. We try.
something there? The publisher Rocket is sold by Kindlepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sorry,
it's about
not Kindlepreneur.
$97.
Analytics is the other one. I am so sorry. That's my fault. Yes, Publisher Rocket and Kalytics. I'm so sorry.
I love Kalytics.
Mhm.
It's just so powerful. And if you write in different tropes, they put these packages together so you don't need to do as much legwork, and you can analyze which colors are working in your genre, and they organize all the covers for you so you see what is really best selling in your genre. When it comes to genres, you know those genres where you click into it and it's having an identity crisis, but you know that your book belongs in that genre. I think that coming of age and satire and contemporary women's fiction, there's a few genres where I feel like this is the case. So in that case, what do you do? Do you just stop writing and start writing to market in a category that has developed itself, or do you try to start something different? How do you reconcile that?
I think you'd have to make sure that you know the difference and well and truly see the difference in the categories between writing to market and writing to trend. I don't write to trend. I write to market. And yes, even if a category is saturated and that's what's in me to write, it's still what I will be writing. Because I have tried many times. I've got several pen names. I write spec fic for one and kidlit for another. If I'm not into a story, it is going to really go very, very slow. And I enjoy fast writing. It's my adrenaline rush. I'll try and get down 10,000 words a day every day, and that's what covers me for all my books. I love publishing. I love writing. And if I'm sitting there chugging, then I don't want to end up hating it. So I would say write what's in you to write. Write it. If your goal is to make a career and make money, then yes, write it as close to market as you can get while still being you. If making money is not, and you just want to enjoy getting books out or writing or doing whatever, you know what? World's limit. Go for it.
I think Kimber has another question for you.
I'm always like 10,000 questions.
Yeah,
a lot of my work is sort of, it doesn't really fit in one specific genre. It's sort of like a straddles genres. Is there anything in particular I should know about writing blurbs where I'm not going to alienate my audience when they think it's one thing and it actually turns out to be sort of something else too?
Yeah, I understand. What are your genres? What do you write at the moment?
A lot of times my fantasy kind of blurs into science fiction. You might start out with an epic fantasy story and find out that there's actually alien space travelers on another planet. There's a series I write right now that starts out as historical fantasy, but it turns out it's actually alien architects in the future. I have a epic fantasy series where it's more of a coming of age when it first starts out, but then it turns into a dark fantasy series pretty quickly. And my stuff just, I come up with a story, I enjoy it, I write it, and I'm like, this doesn't really fit in a box.
I think that's when I wrote my first series, it turns out it was police procedural. I had no idea. I thought I was writing romantic suspense, which is a part of what it is, but it's also 20 other things as well, including hard-boiled detective noir and all this sort of stuff that when I was writing it, I had none of that in mind. It was just the story that was coming on out. I would say, write a list. I think there is a fabulous list of science fantasy fiction genres and tropes on the SSF Pit website, which has just been on. It was on last week. I would go through that and check and go and start researching all the different ones there, because there's magical realism, and how do you define magical realism, and does it apply to your book and all this sort of stuff. There's a whole stack of them. I would go through and have a look at blurbs and tropes and keywords for each of those areas and figure out which ones mostly apply to you. You can do things, do your own word clouds if you wanted to, or you could probably buy the K-Lytics report for that genre. If you want to, you can go into 3 word clouds, paste in words that you see used or sections of text, and it will start to bring out the most used words for you, and you could probably pick out your keywords that way. I just did the top 50 in each of the genres that you think works best for your book, and start reading as much as you can of all the blurbs and take note of what they're doing. And if you like it and it appeals to what looks like your book or sounds like your book, or even if it's just a line or two that you like, and start reading those trends. It's like if you read a specific author, sometimes the next time that you sit down to write, you end up with the touch of their voice. Do you find that at all? Of their style in your writing. So if I've read Sarah J. Maas last week, I will have her snark in the next chapter that I write. And then it fades because it's actually not me. But then I go back and edit and I'm like, I can see what I was reading. So if you read through those top 50 in the genres that you... Oh, hang on, that broke up. Sorry.
I said it's only natural you're reading something that you enjoy and you're like, that's clever. And then it just pops up in your own writing. Yeah, absolutely. What was the website you mentioned? SSF?
SSF Pit. SFF Pit. PIT. Hang on, I'll put it in comments. Hang on. Where am I? That's okay.
And you said look up science fantasy?
Science fiction fantasy is what I look up. Yeah. Hang on, there's the chat. I found it. There we go. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So
no, that's okay.
Oh, I definitely would have sent that to everybody spelt incorrectly. If anyone wants to unmute, you can just say me in the chat or raise your proverbial hand. We got like 10 minutes left, and Sophia, I always have questions for you too. Do you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, so you can say pass, but do you have examples of blurbs that you really like that we should look at as role models?
I actually can't say that I do, but I can send a couple to you probably through the week and see. I would just say, honestly, pick the genres that are closest to yours on Amazon and read the top 50 and see what you like, because that's what's selling, and see if it's something that you feel that you could put your voice into. Yeah,
I had a conversation with Karen Dickens recently, who I would love to connect you with. She makes cover designs for paranormal and fantasy books, and she has lots of best-selling authors and in different categories right now. And a lot of what you're saying resonates because with the conversation I had with her, because it was very much like, do competitive analysis or analyses of other people's covers. But when it comes to covers, it's like, how big is the font? What's the typography? What's the color? How big's the author's name? There are all these things that when, like now, when you're saying these things, it sounds so obvious, but the way you say it, it's like a new way of thinking about it. And quite honestly, there's a lot of things that you've talked about tonight that I did not even think about. And one of them was having different blurbs. So you have your blurb on the back of your book, but you have your pitch blurb and your Facebook blurb. So is there like 3 or a certain few that are absolutely essential that we all make? What are the main blurbs we need?
Twitter. So you need something that's 280 characters or less, whether you're selling your book or you're pitching for a pitch party. I would also use that same, whatever you would write out that's that length. That would be for me in a query letter, because I'm both indie and trad. I would put that in as the top hook to draw into my query letter as well. It could also be the top of your or it could be the top. Sometimes if you break up a blurb, you can have a tagline, a bit of an overview, and that's that short blurb, and then the rest of the blurb. The key is to make sure that if you use it that way, you're not doubling up on what you're saying in the top as well as further down the bottom as well. So make sure that it all still flows through and you're not repeating yourself over and over again. Give them fresh.
So the tagline what would the tagline be?
Okay, so hang on, let me, okay, so one I did this morning and that hasn't worked out at all. Of course it didn't. Why would it work out when you need it? Okay, so one I did this morning for Bob and Sue. So my tagline for them, that was military romance is 12 months apart, 12 care packages to keep them close. So that's my tagline. The blurb then goes deeper into who they are and what they do. So it's something that I feel like I could put at the top of something that's a one-liner that if you only had a quick elevator pitch to send to somebody, that tells you everything they need to know in one go.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. So the tagline is more to let maybe an agent know what they're getting into.
Yes and no. You still need a tagline for your book and you still need a tagline for your series. They're going to be two different things because one's going to cover the series arc, story arc.
Okay. Mel.
Yes. So Sofia, you had talked about updating your blurb on your Amazon page. That's, to me, that's frightening just because it's so public. Where would you recommend workshopping your blurb just to get feedback before you make that drastic move of updating on Amazon?
Do you have a group of beta readers or critique partners that you use before you publish?
Beta readers, yes. Yep. Beta readers, yep.
Ask them.
Okay.
They know the story. They've worked with you, and they're the people that, like, last night I just brought on one of my girls who's been with me for 18 months. She's now my proofreader as well. So they're the people that you trust with your story, right? So trust them with your blurb. These are readers, and some of them will be authors and some will be wannabe editors. They're going to give you their best feedback.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense.
Don, did you have a question?
Hi, it's Don here.
Hey, Don.
Hi. So my book is a creative nonfiction, and it's about men landing on World War II, men landing on D-Day, and I managed to get a surviving veteran to give me the blurb at the top of my cover. You wrote it almost as if you were there. So Jim Parks, surviving veteran, the Royal Winnipeg Rifles. So I felt I had that in a few places, and I had another interviewer that said that I was a passionate storyteller, but this one here tells the story, I feel.
Okay. So that sounds like a testimonial. So that's something you can definitely put on the.
He read it, and and coming from him, he was, landed beside my dad basically, but didn't know each other. But so, anyways, that was it.
Yeah.
And my other book that I did was inspired by a real robbery in Vancouver, and on the back I asked three. You said not to ask a question. Well, I asked three questions: what, when, and maybe. Sort of those questions that will the guys in my story be able to do? So I'd actually asked the three questions, and so one is no good. Is three okay?
Yeah, and look, questions can work. If it's working for you and it's selling books, fantastic, stick with it. Some people like them, some people don't. If they're not working for you, try something different. It's that thing where you look back, get 3 or 6 or 12 months or 24 months of data, and if you can see trends where price changes have affected it, you can see where a sale or a promotion has affected it or changing the blurb, then you know what's working and what's not. Work some things up.
Okay. Thank you.
Sofia, can you talk a little bit about what you offer authors? Because I know you're a writer. You are a nonstop writer, but you're also a marketer, and you work for the romance Authors of Australia. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but what do you offer?
Okay.
What does your organization offer?
Romance Writers of Australia is a community hub, essentially, for romance writers. So we try and band together. We're not part of Romance Writers America. So although we use RWA, we're not the same group. We're not affiliated in any way. We just try and create a place where people. My job is basically to help people find a place where they can grow. So if you're an aspiring author and you haven't published before, I will try and fix you up with different sorts of courses or critique groups or community hubs where you can share things safely and not feel as though you're playing in the deep end and you shouldn't be there, because I remember what that was like, because that was me literally 2 years ago. I am now in the deep end and I still feel like I'm at the baby end of the deep end. So I look up to so many people and I keep wondering if I'm supposed to be there. The idea is to give us a safe place for everyone to talk. So we offer a lot of courses. We have conference. Conference is fantastic. Our last one was in December in Brisbane. Was absolutely brilliant. We had talks from Harlequin, from Joss Wood, Maisie Yates. We had a stack of great authors. We've got Amy Andrews. She's sold 60 million books worldwide. So there's some really massive authors out there and they know so much. Jan Andrew Henderson is a local. He is fantastic. He's a Scottish author and he offers a course and does talks as well. So there is a whole heap of stuff on there. There's also competitions where you can enter your work and get feedback on it. I think the cost is usually around $33 or so. Some are members based, some are not members based. So you can have a look at what we do, get feedback. I love getting feedback. It's my favorite thing. The more eyes on something, the better your book gets. It doesn't matter if they rip it apart, you've learned something, even if you just learn that person is not your best critiquer. So.
And I feel the same way. And the book I'm working on, I don't even know what manuscript this is. I think it's 30. It's been reworked so many times. And whenever someone new reads it, I get another idea that is so much better than how it already is. But I'm just curious, like, do you offer any blurb whispery help outside of this community?
I actually don't yet. I don't do anything personal. I've got one who approached me, so that's my very first that we're doing that way. I am looking at doing something with a girlfriend in June or July, but it's a matter of, we're also hosting a shared world that's launching in June, so we're trying to work something together. So yes, if you follow me, I will announce things as they come up, but at the moment I am desperately trying to get books out, because I keep pull outs and extra things, and suddenly 200,000 words for March. Yes, we can do this, it's going to be fun.
Okay, well, please send me some links to share with everyone. I think everyone, I don't want to speak on everyone's behalf, but I would like to look at some of your blurbs and see everything you're talking about in action. And any links would be great. Everything was amazing. Thank you so much for all the content. That was so much more than blurb help. That was really about getting your book to, like, optimizing your book on Amazon with your blurb, with your keywords. It was a lot. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I was hoping it was enough. I kept trying to think, what else can I put in?
Oh, if you sent me your notes, it would have been horrible. That would not have worked out.
Yeah, my notes didn't look anything like what I said. So.
Yeah, well, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions before we let Sofia go enjoy her beautiful day? It looks very nice out, unlike here where it's cold and wet.
I have to go down and grab all the weeds that have started growing up, so that's my afternoon.
Do you have birds, or you have birds outside, or do you have birds in the house?
I don't. We've got one dog, and I do want the alpacas, and I want chickens, but we've only been here 8 months, so we're very much still. Yeah, that's my goal. This is an 18-year dream that we've had the block for 8 years. the house was finally finished in June, or May, June. So we're in, and we're still working towards things. That there is a library space, there is a whole office space that won't be finished for years because the outside needs doing first. We've got grass in some areas. I'm still pulling out cottonweed and doing fencing. So there is a whole lot of work here to do. And then alpacas as soon as I can get some from local farms and start our herd. So that's the dream.
Yeah, I like that dream. I want like llamas would be good, chickens, goats. That sounds lovely.
Yep. Thank you so much for having me on today. That's been great.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming. I am giving a presentation on YouTube for authors on Thursday night. If anyone wants to attend that, it's not going to be streamed because it is a presentation I'm giving at the Women in Publishing Summit. It's really for them. I'm just using you as guinea pigs to practice on. So that is 8 o'clock Eastern, Thursday night, if anyone would like to join. Sofia, thank you again. And everyone else, I will see you next time.
Thank you, Sofia.
Bye, y'all.